Well, good afternoon. It is 2-6 multiplying integers. And what I want you to do again is go ahead and take a few minutes, hit pause, and copy down these notes. These are going to be some really important rules that we know for our multiplication, and we're going to find out are going to be similar to our division as well. So go ahead and take a few minutes and hit pause to copy these down. All right, the first thing that we're going to have to make certain we do, which is to multiply. Okay, that's all you simply do. Okay, that's the first thing you do is multiply the numbers. Don't worry about the signs, just multiply the numbers together. For example, when we have 4 times 6, 24. Or if we have a negative 4 times a negative 6, we simply don't worry about the signs and just multiply the numbers. There is no trick or anything to any of these. When we, for example, with our adding and subtracting, obviously we weren't always adding when it said to add or subtracting when it said to subtract. But with multiplication and actually with division, you do exactly what it asks. So we simply multiply. Once you do multiply, then step 2 is determined by the sign. So same signs will always be a positive answer. So a positive times a positive will be positive, which is what we've been doing all along. And then a negative times a negative will also be positive. Okay, same signs are positive. Different will be negative answers. Okay, same you can think of as sum, different as negative, meaning subtracting, negative. There's lots of different ways you can look at it. I'm always open to suggestions. Students have some very creative ways to remembering this. Same and sum are usually a little more are better rules to use with the addition part. I know we've used that in the past, this past week. But again, the sum meaning positive for an answer. So whatever works for you, and we'll talk more about that in class tomorrow to devise some different ways to remember that. The other one is for different signs will be negative answers. So here are my different signs. A positive times a negative, it's always going to be a negative answer, or a negative times a positive, which will also give you a negative answer. Okay, but again, you're still just multiplying 5 times 6, you're going to get 30. Then it's a matter of, is it negative or is it positive? Okay, so again, let's take a look at those rules. Same signs will be positive, different signs will be negative. It's that simple. So let's look at a few problems. Go ahead, and I'm going to have you answer this. So go ahead and hit pause, and then we can check for understanding. So again, there is no multiplication sign between these. It's simply up against the parentheses, which does indeed mean to multiply. And so 3 times a negative 5, well, we definitely get 15 for 3 times 5. And then again, same signs will be positive, different signs will be negative. And these are different, therefore my answer is negative 15. Let's look at the next one. Go ahead and solve this. So we have 7 times 7, which is 49. And then we are going to have same signs are positive. So it will be a positive 49. So you can do one of two things. You can just leave it 49, which is what I suggest, that you just leave it as is. Or some students really like to put that positive sign in there, but it's not necessary. Okay, we would rather you not. And students are always asking us to take shortcuts. There's a shortcut. Don't write it. Okay. You've been writing positive numbers your entire, probably from the time you were 2 years old, and you never put a positive sign on it. So why start now, I guess. So go ahead and leave it just a plain old 49. Go ahead and solve this. And yes, that is an exponent up in the upper right-hand corner, and that is a 3. So go ahead and hit pause and solve. All right, so we end up with a negative 2 to the third power, which means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. Now again, we need to work left to right, and when you do that, we can put parentheses around it, or you can just simply multiply going left to right, whichever you prefer. So we're going to do parentheses just to help keep things a little more organized. And a negative times a negative is going to be a positive. So that 2 times 2 is going to be a 4, and that's times a negative 2, which is this 2 that I brought down. And now it is 4 times 2, which equals 8, and they're unlike signs, therefore negative. Okay, so negative 8 is my answer. Now, looking back at this exponent, if I had an even number, which would give me, let's say, a 4, which would put another negative 2, then this would give me 4, and negative times a negative would give me 4, so there'd be a positive times a positive, which is positive. So the rule of thumb is that if it's an odd exponent, then it will be a negative answer. If it is an even number for an exponent, then it will be positive. In this situation, being that this number is a negative number, your base. Okay. Again, if you're not certain about that, the best way to do it is to work them out. Okay. So that was the answer to a negative 2 to the third power. And I'm going to let you go ahead and hit pause and solve this problem. So go ahead and do this. Well, as we have always learned with our PEMDAS, you will need to do orders of operation with parentheses first. So we will leave our 5 squared over here minus, and then whatever the value is inside of this. So we are going to first take our, working left to right, our 4 times negative 6, okay, and 4 times negative 6, that's a parenthesis, is going to end up giving me 24, and since it's unlike signs, different signs, it'll be a negative 24 times a 3. So then you're going to still solve with what is inside of this. So then you can just simply say, well, my 24 times 3, and I get 12, and 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 more is 72. And then is it going to be positive or negative? Well, since we have different signs, it will be a negative 72. So then that is inside those parentheses. And I'm going to leave those parentheses purely because this is a negative number. So then we have 5 squared, and that is a subtraction sign. Okay, so it's taking 5 squared minus the quantity of this inside the parentheses. So now we are going to do exponents, and 5 squared would be 5 times 5, and they're both positive, so my answer is positive, which is 25, and I'm going to subtract a negative 72. So now we've got to use what we've been learning all of this previous week with subtraction and addition. And my subtraction says we need to add its opposite. So you're going to take 25, change this to addition, opposite of the second number, which is going to be a positive 72. So now it's just simply 72 plus my 25, and you see you end up with 97 for an answer. Okay, so check your answer for any mistakes and see where you maybe made that mistake. Again, kind of a quick review of this. It's bringing these down, solving inside of this parenthesis, which is a 4 times 6 is a negative 24, and negative 24 times 3 gives us still a negative 72. Then you've got to solve that exponent and bring down everything else. It is subtraction. So then we have to add its opposite, which is making this addition, and opposite of negative 72 is a positive 72. Same signs, okay? Since they're same sign, you add, sign stays the same. 97 is the answer, okay? So again, please take note of anything that you might have misunderstood, and certainly bring that up in class tomorrow so that we can correct yourself and have a little more clear understanding of what we did today. It is going to be a little more difficult. It's not just, as you can see, multiplying. We're also going to integrate a little bit of addition and subtraction into these problems as well to check on your understanding and its different uses that it has. So have a great night tonight, and we will see you back here tomorrow.